At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Thursday, July the 24th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams is the producer of the program. Let's get it going. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air, 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So in response to a pretty snarky email I read this morning, are you going to talk about the Blue Jays every day? I wasn't planning on it, but now that you mention it, how about those Blue Jays? Winning the series over the New York Yankees last night, tied for the best record in the American League. Back 4 games atop the Yankees in the American League East. How about that? On to play Detroit in Detroit for a 4-game set. And I remember this game very clearly, and it's a pretty popular highlight. It's back in 1983, the Pine Tar game. Do you know what that is, Dave? George Brett, Kansas City Royals, hit a home run. It was disallowed because they measured the amount of pine tar on his bat. I think about it all the time. I think about strange stuff. So you're only allowed to have from the butt of the bat 17 inches worth of pine tar up. 17 inches is actually the width of the home plate. So they measured the bat against home plate. He had too much pine tar. They disallowed the home run, and he went absolutely snaky. When you look at baseball today, it looks like most batters have pine tar way above the 17-inch limit. I don't know if they changed the rules or not, but I think about that one all the time. And as I admit, I think about weird stuff. All right, so World Aquatics on the go. The swimming in the pool begins this weekend. All eyes on Summer McIntosh and Chinese swimmer Yu Zida, 12 years of age, might be on the podium in as many as 3 events at 12. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And the 5 Team Canada World Junior Hockey players participated in the 2018 games. Of course, they've been going through the court process. It has been a very disconnected, strange set of circumstances, legally speaking. They'll find out their fate today. All 5 are charged with 1 count of sexual assault, and one of the players is also charged with being a party to by inviting those players to the hotel room unbeknownst to the young lady known as EM. We'll find out, but this case is a big one. Not only, unfortunately, about hockey culture, but there's a conversation required to be had in this country about what consent looks like. You know, it's no means no, as opposed to in some jurisdictions, they talk about the fact that you need to get affirmed consent. So someone has to say yes, as opposed to wait for a no. We'll find out what happened. If they are found guilty of it, they should pay, regardless of who they are, where they're from, or their stature as professional hockey players. Who cares? So we'll keep our eye on that, and many people will be. All right, a quick one. A nice, more pleasant shout-out in the sports world. Congratulations to everyone involved with the Burin Peninsula Under-15 softball team. They were in Twillingate this past weekend for the U15 softball provincials. They won. They went to 11 tournaments this year, were undefeated in all 11. So apparently they hit the long ball. A lot of mercy games were involved. So this one person who sent me a note to acknowledge the team also goes on to say, hats off to Jody Cooper and the crew in Twillingate and Summerford for a great tournament. So congratulations to the members, the coaches, the parents of the Burin U15 softball team, undefeated in 12 tournaments. Pretty remarkable. Apparently down Marystown Burin, they decided they were going to just create the Burin Peninsula Minor Softball League, and consequently that was the result. The makeup of the team, 10 boys, 1 girl, and the U15 provincial champions. Congratulations to them. All right. Province-wide fire ban. Thankfully, the weather has cooperated, and yes, the folks working on the ground and in the air to put out the wildfires are doing fantastic work. So there was 9, and now there's 3, and a variety of reasons as to why. So the fires that continue to burn, there's one in Labrador, the Chance Harbour one, and the Musgrave Harbour, well, I guess it's Rugged Harbour, which has led to the evacuation in Musgrave Harbour. Here's a message from firefighters. So apparently, people are still lighting fires. Whether it be campfires or backyard fires. Look, I like having a backyard fire too. That's why I put a fire pit in the backyard. But at this stage, with how dry things are, Dwayne Angel, president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Fire Services, says, we have to be careful. ATVs through tall grass or flicking your cigarette butts out the car window or whatever the case may be. Apparently, fire departments are being called far too frequently about people who are having fires. There's a pretty significant fine. If you get caught, it could be up to $1,000. So here's one of the quotes, and this one strikes home. When people are losing their homes and evacuating, I can't understand why someone would even take it in their head that lighting a fire would be okay to do. So that's a message from the Firefighters Association. So pay heed, I guess, is the way to put it. All right, also a cautionary tale from a listener out on the west coast of the island, talking about being mindful of your bills. Of course. I would suggest most people listening to the program probably give a very careful scrutiny to all the bills they receive, and wisely so. Who knows what errors may indeed be involved in your bill? And who knows as to whether or not a charge, unbeknownst to you, that is part of your new contractual relationship with whatever, utility or telecom company or a bank. So the message is to be careful with your bill. His specific concern was about his hydro bill. So he swapped out a meter from analog to digital, and apparently his bill jumped exponentially. When he contacted the utility, he was told that the new digital meter had not been reset. He's on auto payment. So now he's going to have to chase it. So like everywhere else, if you have some auto payment set up with your bank to pay your bills, which many people do, be careful to still have a look at the bill. But when you're on auto payment and there is an overcharge, then it becomes the hassle and the headache of trying to get that money back from whoever it may be, the bank, the utility, the telecom company, and up and down the line. So cautionary tale from that particular listener. Also, plenty of discussion about Marine Atlantic. Whether it be the Prime Minister's commitment to cut the fees in half, and of course, it's booked solid this summer. It won't make any difference to the frequency of passage on the ferries. Whether or not it ever translates into some cost savings for me and you remains to be seen. Then there's two specific areas where I hear a lot of concerns voiced. Number one, should there be, and I don't know how you manage this, but should there be some sort of priority system for people from the island? Because if you hear stories of people who have to, for whatever reason, for a pleasure, for a business, for an emergency, to travel off the island via Marine Atlantic, they call to book passage and they're told, yes, you can get on next Thursday, but you can't come back until the 12th of August. Stuff like that. I hear it all the time. Then the next one is I've had a few pictures sent to me recently about just how much space is left on the ferry, and yet the ferry has set sail. So we hear about capacity in those staggered travel dates that are offered to people, whether it be from this province or otherwise. But is our Marine Atlantic ferries actually setting sail without being absolutely full? Given all the concerns we hear, given the backlog that has to be cleared up when we have, say, for instance, interruptions because of weather. So does that happen? The people who have sent me the pictures, they've proven to be very straightforward and trustworthy in the past. I have no reason to doubt what they've sent me. But there's one picture where it looks like you could have put another 30 vehicles on. So what goes on there? I guess it's probably time to get Marine Atlantic back on the show, Dave, to broach some of these questions so that people have a better understanding. All right. We had a good conversation with Hope Jameson on the program, I guess that was yesterday, about housing, affordability, and community housing. So whether you have organizations like Stella Circle or Choices for Youth, and they own, operate, and maintain housing for the obvious reasons. But when you look across the country, we are way behind. So the national average, or the nationwide community housing, accounts for approximately 4% of the overall housing stock. In this province, it's 0.3%. So that's a problem for every reason imaginable. We have a housing issue, whether it be affordability and or simply vacancy if we're talking about rent. So the problem therein, as described by Hope, and I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, trying to recall what she had said, is in these organizations, whether it be the lack of funding for community housing, whether it be the arduous task of going through all the funding avenues and the paperwork and the horsepower required to even get the application filled out correctly, is problematic. Think about the now defunct Housing Accelerator Fund. There were municipalities saying out loud that they would love to avail of those monies, but they couldn't because they didn't have anybody in-house and or the staff and or the know-how to even compile all the data to satisfy an application for housing accelerator funds. Now, that's gone away. We still don't really know what the Prime Minister's new plan, what is it called, Build Canada Homes, how that even works. It's a combination of incentives for developers and what have you. Then we got to get down to the brass tacks with some of the municipal hurdles that have to be cleared for housing. But just think about it out loud. In the OECD, the developed nations, community housing is about 7% of housing stock. Across the country, the average is 4%. In this province, 0.3%. Somehow that has got to change because the housing, especially for the people served by organizations like Stella Circle, like Choices for Youth, pretty important to get a little bit closer to the numbers on that front. What do you think? Okay, let's dig into it. Crime numbers are out. We already know there was a survey not that long ago that showed an overwhelming number of people in the province feel less safe than they did 5 years ago. And there's a bunch of reasons why. Let's get into it. All right, this province experienced the largest increase in overall crime rate of any sub-federal jurisdiction last year. It simply means province. The crime rate in this province rose 5% last year from 2023. Most provinces saw their rates drop or hold steady. Nationally, crime rates dropped by 4%, which is obviously good news. So, Stats Canada says overall crime rate in this province went up by 36% in the period between 2014 and 2024. Severe or violent crime dropped 7% in the metro region in 2024 compared to 2023, but if you look at that decade span of 14 to 24, rose by 2%. Homicide rate in Canada decreased slightly overall. Large increase in proportion of women who were killed by a spouse or intimate partner. We talk about that issue on this program. It's difficult to discuss, but obviously when you see those numbers, it has to be on the front burner. It's rising from 32% of women victims in 2023 to 42% of women victims in 2024. The RNC talks about some of the things that they've done to try to grapple with the type of crime and the frequency of in this province. And we can get into some of those moving parts, but people talk about things like, well, you simply have to hire more police officers. Okay, certainly not a bad idea. Nothing slows you down like a cop car, and nothing deters crime quite like the presence of police. I think everybody can understand that. But that would be simply more cops to make more arrests, conclude more investigations, which, of course, is a good thing. What we don't talk a whole lot about is crime prevention. So there's some distinct overlaps here when you talk about criminal justice and the healthcare system and other facets of government. Poverty is absolutely part of this conversation. The social determinants of health is absolutely part of this conversation. You know, we talk about how important it would be to try to improve the healthcare system. It would also go a long way to improving public safety. Because if you look at the numbers, it's pretty clear. Then what I don't have in the world of the crime numbers is the rates of recidivism for repeat offenders. That's an important thing to know. Now, we have heard from criminologists that random acts of violence, random acts of crime in this province don't reflect an unsafe society, but people see the numbers. People see the headlines. And of course, that bleeds into your psyche and makes you feel less safe. And of course, I've mentioned many times the role of the media on that front. So we can talk about it from any angle. Also, at the Council of the Federation, all the premiers, and of course the Prime Minister was there on Tuesday. Now that 3-day event has wrapped up. One of the agenda items was bail reform. Premier Ford in Ontario was talking about it, and he long has been. It was part of the federal campaign about things like how to reform bail. Eligibility for, especially if you are a repeat offender, especially if you are a violent criminal. And we can include domestic violence in that as well, of course. Bail reform can be a political talking point, but it's eventually going to be settled at the Supreme Court level. Parliamentarians, legislators can change it, and we probably do have to reform bail. People are sick and tired of dangerous offenders being let out. The concept of catch and release has really been a dominant conversation across the country, as it should be. But politicians can do what politicians do. There have been bail reform attempts made in the past that have been struck down at the Supreme Court level. So yes, we have to grapple with it as politicians, or they do, but then eventually and ultimately it will be ruled upon based on constitutionality by the Supreme Court eventually. But let's take it on. We talked about an RNC warning about some dangerous drugs on the street here that have been masked as anti-anxiety pills, Xanax. we're not alone. I see a story in the media today. Alberta RCMP are warning of the exact same thing. After why? A teenage boy was found dead. In that province, a 16-year-old. In this province, we know there's been a charge laid against a 19-year-old for giving these dangerous drugs to a 14-year-old who overdosed and died. In that case, that 19-year-old is charged. That should be more common than it is. How many charges have you ever seen laid by the law enforcement of a drug dealer as a result of that person selling dangerous drugs, whether they be knowingly selling them fentanyl or benzos or phenazolam, I think it's called, or not? They're dangerous, they're toxic, they're highly addictive, and they could drop you dead where you stand. So Alberta's talking about it. I had a look at a couple of other provinces, warnings about those types of drugs on the streets in almost every province across the country when I had a quick look. Okay, let's keep going. So the Oversight Committee, the three-person committee looking at the Upper Churchill Memorandum of Understanding, has released their quarterly report. Premier Hogan has said in a recent meeting with Premier Legault that the deadline date of April 2026 is still on target. The Oversight Committee says it's a very aggressive timeline, which begs a few questions. If it is an aggressive timeline, and if this is as important as it is, considering we're talking about a 50-year deal, why the rush? We needn't do anything aggressive when we're talking about something that was a memorandum of understanding, non-binding. Things have changed, even since it was signed. So if it's an aggressive timeline, that still has to be up for debate as to whether or not we have to hit that target. Then, why April 2026? Like, where does that date come from? Is it from Legault in Quebec? They changed governments like it's nobody's business. It very much looks like he's out next time around. He doesn't have to go to the polls, or his government doesn't have to go to the polls until next fall. So is that why we're talking about a spring deadline with retroactive benefits at the beginning of this year? But if it's aggressive, not to say walk away, but let's consider all the things that have changed. Let's ask and answer the questions that people are talking about. What they pay in Quebec versus what we pay here, the Guile Island consideration, which I don't think is a done deal, given the perspective of the Innu Nation. But if it's aggressive, let's pick a less aggressive timeline. Even if it's important for Quebec to get this done before Legault goes to the polls, okay. But let's just think about it. In this province, of course, the government thinks it's a great deal. The members of the NDP and the independent members have voted on side with the government to extend the MOU into negotiations, arriving at some point to definitive agreements. In Quebec, very similar conversation. Hydro-Quebec thinks it's a great deal. Legault thinks it's a great deal. Opposition politicians in Quebec think it's a terrible deal. So I guess it depends on you ask. Where you stand depends on where you sit. But if it's aggressive, let's tame it. Let's make sure, because it's too critically important to not get this absolutely right. Deals are going to always be mutually beneficial if they're going to get done. It's extremely important, given the historical relationship between this province and Quebec, this province and Hydro-Quebec, all makings of the Churchill River Hydro developments. We need a win. Politically speaking, the government absolutely needs a win. Does this constitute one? Plenty of people think not. And there's a bunch of questions being asked, and I think it's incumbent on us to ask said questions. So for those out there like the Dave Vardys of the world or Gabe Gregory's of the world, if you'd like to come on and have a fulsome conversation, including proponents of the deal, but there's too much on the line to get it wrong. There are two very quick ones before we get to you. So, the whole buy local. I've been talking about buying local for a long time. I just see all the upside in it. And you do what you do with your own money, of course, whether it be travel or what you buy or where you buy it. But for the retailers who are jumping on this, I'll call it bandwagon, can they please do this in good faith? They're marketing the Buy Canada. They're marketing Buy Local. The patriotic display of maple leaves in the stores, fair enough. But if the marketing and the advertising is misleading, shame on you. We've already got a problem with the price of stuff in the shops. So if you say something is product of Canada, made in Canada, but then you look a little closer at the product itself, and it's a product of somewhere other than Canada. And then someone gives the example of almonds, product of Canada. We don't grow almonds in Canada. So come on, retailers. You want to play that patriotic card, at least do it in good faith. Last one. The whole world of global trade, which has been turned upside down, unnecessarily so. In this country, you know full well the bugaboo, or one of them, is supply management. The control over dairy, poultry, and eggs. I wish I had more time to dig in, and maybe sometime during the program we'll have an opportunity to do it. But the question is whether or not, and Parliament has already voted, consensus is supply management is staying, and it won't be used as a diplomatic bargaining tool, trade or otherwise. But if you want to take that on, we can do it. We're on Twitter. Or VOCM Open Line, follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That can only happen if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's begin on line number 2. Good morning, Trevor. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty. How are you?
I'm okay this morning, thank you. How about you?
I was talking to Linda on the 23rd of May about the Adams Cove wildfire. It's been 78 days now since the fire, and as you know, you were talking to John Denine. He was telling you about the mobile home. It is a mobile home, and there was a few mobile homes in the community that burnt. And anyway, we haven't had any word since. They're saying that it's going to be a few days to do an assessment, and they'll reach out to us. And you can call who you like, and you're not getting through to anybody. Like 78 days, and they can't give you an answer. Like, they're saying days to come. Is it months to come or years to come? Like, what did he mean by days to come?
Excellent question. I mean, we've been trying to get answers there too. So people have concerns with the insurance companies, but then specifically, who's actually eligible to avail of support, for instance, from the Federal Disaster Relief Fund? We don't know. The provincial government, of course, says the same thing that all governments say. You know, we will be there to support you. How and when? Because at some point, someone's going to have to give people an answer. Even if it's the answer you don't want to hear, at least some communication and an update is going to be most welcomed.
Well, you can phone that federal disaster line, and it'll tell you. It'll leave your name and number. We'll get back to you.
Yep.
And that's been going on since the 8th of May, and there's been no one answering. We got a mayor that's supposed to be our mayor for Small Point Adams Cove, and he's not saying much. I mean, I don't know why he can't come on and start fighting for us. To see why, government. I wrote numerous emails to Hogan, will not reply to me. Is like, are they trying to forget about it? Is Adams Cove burned off the map that they just like leave it be? They'll forget about it. It's like this is what's going on. They gave $30,000 to the council to help clean up right away. They had an answer for that, but I mean, they're not doing nothing for the residents. Like, I mean, we got a mayor. Why can't he get on and start fighting? Like Portabax, when Portabax was in the shambles out there, the mayor out there was on just about every day fighting, And look what they got helped out good. I mean, Premier Hogan got on and said that when he made one of his news briefs, he said, that'll be no different. They looked after Portabass. This would be no different. I mean, we're not looking to get a whole town built. We're just looking to help, to see what's out there. Like Saskatchewan got everyone straightened away. Like they got 13 or 14 million passed out to them, and they're all on the mend already. And like, what's taking so long? Steve Crocker will not even answer. Won't even get back to you. So, like, where do you go?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you on that front, but let's just together say it out loud here this morning. Listen, for provincial government representatives, it's all fine and dandy to tell folks on the heels of a disaster, in this case a wildfire, that the government is there to support you. So can we get a better idea of exactly what that means? If it's just a platitude, that's not good enough for Trevor or for anyone else who's lost property in Adams Cove. So let's get some answers going. Even if it's like, okay, we're in the 11th hour of all the assessments with our engineers, blah, 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 and we'll have something for you definitively by, I don't know, pick a date, the 5th of August. Okay, because then at least we know. We know something's coming. Yes. It might be something, might be nothing, but we'll at least have a deadline or a timeline that people can look forward to, as opposed to, 78 days later, still crickets, which is not good enough.
No, and Patty is silence is everything, right? So, I mean, everybody's still in wonder what's going on. I mean, like, when you write an email, he could at least, write you back. Steve Crocker won't even call you back. But Tony Wakeham, he was out there. He talked to us all. Like he said, keep putting the pressure on them. He said they will come back and talk eventually, but no. But Tony Wakeham has been there all the way for us, and I can't see, like, this is beyond gone. Like, I don't know why the mayor can't come on and talk and tell the residents what he can do, or what he can do for, get after the government too as well. What have we got a mayor for? Why have we got a premier? Like, why I asked the premier to come on your show, to ask him on the 23rd to come on to let us know what's going on. At least do that, right? At least do that, to give some info on what we got to go on.
Yeah, it's one thing for opposition politicians to be advocating on our behalf, and good on whoever, and in this case Tony Wakeham, but it's the government that has the purse strings, and let's see if we can't get some answers. I'll dig back into it for you, Trevor, to see if I can't get something, and whether it be the mayor of Adams Cove, whether it be the provincial government representatives, whoever can give me an answer, we'll try to get them for you.
Well, it'll be nice for the mayor to come on at least and to show us that that's what he's there for. Like, why can't he come on? If he can't come on, I'll go on and talk for him. Like, I'm doing it now. I shouldn't have to be getting on here doing this, right? Our mayor should be getting on, wondering why this is 78 days down the road and there's nothing done, right? This, can't put up, that's not justified, no.
Understood, Trevor. Let's keep it out there and see if we can't get some traction with the government on your behalf, or all the residents who lost some property.
All right, Patty, I'll be calling you back. If we don't hear nothing, I'll be calling back again.
You're welcome to call. No problem.
Okay, Patty, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye. Look, come on. I know things take time, and government notoriously moves pretty slowly or sluggishly, but an update is important. We're a couple of weeks shy of 3 months later, so even if you can just give us some timeline that people can look forward to getting a response, that would be most helpful. Another one before we get to the break, and let's go to line number 1. Tanya, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Patty.
Good morning.
I said I'd like to call because I listen to your show every day.
Thank you.
And I'd like to give a big shout out to the health science and my personal doctor. But this is what I got a problem with.
Okay.
I called for my mom for her to get reassessed because she's under home care and I'm the one looking after her. And really, I can go away and I can go back to work and make more money and pay somebody to come take care of Mom. But she needs somebody here 24/7. So I called. I only get 30 hours a week, by the way. I called yesterday to reach out for some help. They didn't give me no help. What they done was called Mom because they said, well, we'll come and reassess her. I said, yes, no problem. And they said, we'll let you know when we're coming. I said, I don't need you to know when you're coming.
Okay.
I guess I'm cut off. Am I? No. Okay.
Sorry?
I said, I don't need you to know. I don't need to know when you're coming. Just come and reassess my mom, right? Because I get 30 hours a week. You know what they done to me last night?
No.
Yesterday? They called her and asked her all kinds of questions on the phone. And I went out and she was afraid, right? And I said, Mom, what's going on? She said, I said, never. She said, somebody just called me. And I goes, okay, it's only Aunt Marcella or Uncle Wayne. She said, no. She said, not a scam call either, Tanya. And I goes, Mom, I tells you to hang up on scam calls. But they were asking me if I lives alone and all these questions. She was dead afraid last night. I had to stay out there with her all night. 4 or 5 times she was up last night, somebody getting into her house. And I said, Mom, I'm right here. Nobody getting into you. And that's what I'd like to take the social workers for. I reach for help. I reached out for help, and that's what they done to me. Do you need names? Because I can give them to you, but I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
Well, not that I'm not allowed, but I tries not to use names.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't help the situation. So, how long since you made the first call looking for a reassessment?
My God, I've been at this for 2 years.
Oh.
2 years. This July is 2 years. I'm not asking for no favors. I'm not trying to hide anything. And that's what I said to him. Come and, because, Patty, I'm an electrician by trade. I can make more money than they're ever going to pay me. And I could pay somebody to look after Mom. It's not like I'm here trying to scam this issue. And you know what really hurts me?
What's that?
I lost my sister a couple months ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I don't even have that support.
My condolences on your loss, and like most everything, if there's a reassessment required for your mom or anybody else out there as it pertains to home care or whether or not they belong in a healthcare facility, you know, we're talking about people's health and safety.
That's what she's afraid of.
I'm sure.
She said, Tanya, they're going to take me and put me in a home. I said, Mom, not when I'm here. But should it be left on one person 24/7? And guess what? My buddy works up the road, okay?
Okay.
She does home care, okay? She gets $2 more an hour than I do. She gets her 40 hours a week. Right? I get 30. $2 less an hour and walk away. But if her mom gets sick, she can come look after my mom and get her full wage and her full hours, and I can go up and look after her mom to do the same. But because, and I don't think that's right, Patty. I don't really think that's right.
For me, it's more about the care. And of course, people who are working would like to get paid the same amount as people doing the same job. I understand that, of course. Tanya, anything else you'd like to say this morning before they make me go to the break here?
Yep. I really is not liking my government right now because they're not helping me at all. And I said, I called yesterday and I said, can somebody give me some help? 15 hours. Give me one day off. 1 day off. I work 365 days, and I fill out my timesheets. And who in the world works 365 days?
Sometimes
Nobody.
It feels like I do, but I know where you're coming from, and it's difficult. Work is one thing. Taking care of an ailing or aging loved one is quite another type of work. Tanya, I wish you good luck with it. If you have an update in the near future, let me know.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Thank you for the call. Good luck.
I just wanted to reach out and say, what the government is doing is not right.
Understood. And I appreciate your time. Keep me in the loop.
Okay.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Gavin. Will, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for taking my call.
Happy to take your call, of course. Gavin was a member of the Portugal Cove St. Philip's Town Council. Before we get into whatever you wanted to talk about this morning, you were indeed suspended as a councillor in Portugal Cove St. Philip's. You had challenged it in Supreme Court and won. What was the allegation that led to your suspension? Just for the listeners' purpose, then we'll talk about the court case.
All right, I'll make it quick because it gets rather complicated. There were 3 code of conduct complaints laid against me last year. One by the deputy mayor of Portugal Cove St. Philip's and 2 by residents of the community. And basically, what happened was that the judge, in his judgment, regarding one of the code of conduct complaints. Said that the town was wrong in sanctioning me for expressing my opinions on social media regarding a decision by council to provide a substantial sum of money to a subsidiary. I was going to say a community group in the town. Basically, I believe that providing large sums of money to community groups was not an appropriate expenditure. I have other priorities. We're talking about road safety, the taxation levels, etc. And the court found that I had a right to express myself on social media regarding matters of public interest.
And that's just one case. There's two others that are yet to be fully decided by the courts, right?
Yeah, it gets extremely confusing. Basically, all three code of conduct complaints were essentially the same.
Okay.
The allegations were all basically the same. One of them was the deputy mayor's complaint. Council, in the end, found that agreed with the investigator assigned to the case that I was basically, for lack of a better word, innocent of all charges. The council had overturned the investigator's report recommendations regarding the first one that we just spoke about, that the judge the Supreme Court just ruled on that last week. So the investigator in that case had found that I had not breached the code of conduct, and the council decided otherwise. So that's why I went to court. And the third one, that has yet to be decided. The judge will decide on September 2nd, so I'd rather not go into that.
Fair enough. So that's a bit of the backstory here. But
Yes.
I believe you're intending on running again, even though all of these things have not been finally clued up in court.
That is correct, and I was for full disclosure, I was due to come back at the end of April after serving my 3-month suspension, but then two other people laid conflict of interest complaints against me regarding the January meeting where I was suspended, and so I've had to go to court for that as well. But I'm hoping that that'll all get settled out fairly soon. But yes, I want to run again. I'll tell you why. I've had some successes as a councillor. Chief amongst them right now, we're seeing the completion of a walking trail along the Broad Cove River on the St. Philip's side along Thorburn Road. And that was something that I've worked very, very hard. I made that a priority. And if I am re-elected elected in October, I intend to make road safety and trails a key priority, because I think it fits in with what the government has been talking about, the provincial government, that is, about trying to make Newfoundland the healthiest province in the nation by 2030. Just the easiest way to get healthy, or one of the easiest ways to get healthy, is to be able to walk out your door and hop on a bike or just walk down the road. And as you know, Patty, it's too many roads in our municipalities aren't safe, and people don't feel safe. And it's just working with municipalities, I think, would be to help alleviate the situation, would go a long way to helping government meet its goal.
Yeah, I mean, I know down in the Cove, there's also an issue with off-road vehicles, ATVs and dirt bikes. The property up around Nary's Pond is torn to shreds.
It is beaten up. I'll tell you something else. There's a petition on Facebook regarding a woman who was nearly hit by a vehicle while riding her bike, and there's a lot of kids on scooters. But we had wider shoulders, not even full bike lanes or sidewalks, just wider shoulders that were paved. Then these kids could operate their scooters without being on the main road with the traffic. So these are issues of, as you say, are of real importance to our communities.
No question. Gavin, I appreciate the time. So last one, the other outstanding court rulings are obviously set to be decided prior to the municipal election, which is October the 2nd, right?
September 2nd on the suspension. I was suspended on on two broad counts. One was the report where I just cleared the investigation, the investigator's report for one of the allegations. Sorry, there were two investigations that had to be decided. One was decided in my favor last week. The other is decided on September 2nd. Regarding the removal from council, I don't know the timeline for that. I got the appeals in there, but I'm confident that if we are successful on September 2nd, that we'll hopefully be able to clue up the other two matters in fairly quick order.
Appreciate the time. Thank you, Gavin.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express it, even if it's a bit complicated.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye. I'm not sure who's next, but we're going to talk about the Fire Pit Challenge. Interesting conversation given what we're talking about regarding fires, so we'll find out what that means. Then we're going to talk about some of the most recent crime numbers, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 4, second more to the PC member for Harbour Maine. She's the opposition critic for justice and public safety. That's Helen Conway-Ottenheimer. Good morning, Helen. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for taking my call.
No problem at all.
The reason I'm calling now is because of the recent release of the numbers, the crime rate numbers, which are very disturbing. We've seen, for example, in our province, we have the highest increase in crime rates among all of provinces and territories last year. That is really concerning, Patty. It is disheartening, in fact. It is not good news. This new data is worrisome, and these statistics certainly do not make people of the province feel any safer.
Are you attributing the spike in some crime numbers to anything in particular, or a variety of things?
So when we look at what causes crime, of course, I think it is important that we have support for our police officers when it comes to resources. Now, I've listened to your preamble. You had a conversation with our PC candidate from Waterford Valley yesterday, a very good conversation about the importance of, community and community engagement. But I think the starting point here, Patty, is that we need to see more officers. They cannot do the work that they need to do in order to get the criminals off the streets if they do not have the resources to do that. They need more support. They are so busy every day in terms of just calls for service. I've been hearing this across the board with RCMP and RNC, and therefore they're not able to do the things they need to do with respect to crime prevention, with respect to surveillance, with respect to monitoring of bail conditions, for example. And then we see repeat offenders who are primarily responsible for, a disproportionate number of crimes back on the streets. They're not able to deal with the most persistent offenders. So, yes, there has to be, it is a multifaceted approach that we need, but first and foremost, it is my view that the government has failed in that they are not providing the support, the officers on the ground that are needed in particular in rural Newfoundland, when we see what's happening with the drug crisis that we're in right now. And I think that is the starting point, Patty.
Fair enough. I mean, no one argues that more police is helpful, but in many parts of rural, of course, it would be an RCMP responsibility. We have huge vacancies there, which I don't really know what the province could do about it, as opposed to the controls we have over the RNC. With the RNC expanding their footprint to the West Coast, it only added 10 RNC officers to the ranks, so that's probably insufficient. Let me just take it one step further. So adding police officers, what they do in the world of crime prevention, I don't think everyone has a real firm understanding of it, but of course police get involved after the crime has been committed. So for me, yes, hire more police officers, first, but they will, at the exact same time or concurrently, we've got to talk more about crime prevention, because if preventing crime keeps us safer. The police arrest people after they've committed a crime. So I would focus in on, at the exact same time, things like poverty, things like the social determinants of health, things like expansion of detox, expansion of rehab opportunities. Those things done concurrently is the only way we're going to make this place a bit safer. Hiring more cops, just more arrests, which is a good thing, but it's those crime prevention measures that have got to be attended to, at least as importantly as adding more cops. What do you think?
So what I would say about that is, yes, we need to focus on, prevention in terms of a holistic approach involving, health, involving the social support system, like you mentioned, the social determinants of health and all of that. But when you say that the police only get in after the fact, in terms of arrests, but police can do the investigations. They do the undercover operations. They do the surveillance. They're engaging with the community. They're finding out where the drug houses are in these communities. Okay, so really, if we have more, for example, targeted special forces. We have one, it's my understanding, they may be working on another joint drug unit, RCMP, RNC, but even the police visibility in itself can provide a deterrent to crime. We know that there are drug dealers and organized criminals that are not even from the province, that are here in our province. And if they see the police visibility and the police presence, if they hear that there's investigations and there's undercover operations and there's surveillance going on, then that in itself would provide a deterrent, and that can have the effect of pushing them out of here and out of our province. So there is a lot to be said. It's not just about after the fact. There are many benefits if we have more police and more police presence. And I just want to add to one thing about that, Patty. About 2 weeks ago, the RCMP in Trinity Conception RCMP and the Conception Bay North Joint Council had a town hall meeting in Carbonear. It was an excellent, initiative by the RCMP, and really what it was so well attended by residents and citizens. The message was clear that people do not feel safe, but there were really important conversations, and it was an awareness session, and it was about how to try to engage our community. And you talked about that, as I stated yesterday. You were having a great conversation about that, about the importance of community engagement, because the police cannot do this alone. I mean, we all appreciate the hard work of the RCMP and the RNC, but they cannot do this alone. They need the support and the engagement of the community. But again, we have to push harder for policy decisions, and we have to see investments from the province, and it's not being taken seriously. It is clearly not being taken seriously. Only a couple of months, as you just referenced earlier, we were talking about the high rates of intimate partner violence in our province. It's staggering numbers of reported incidents of violence in our province, and yet we don't see concerted, support system there in place. So we really, I'm concerned. I don't see. When we look at this data now that's out, it's 10 years. It really demonstrates there's a lack of any meaningful progress. And that concerns me. I hate to see when Newfoundland is on the top of the list like this. This is certainly that our crime rate is rising like this. And not to mention as well, that many crimes go unreported. So even these stats are not a complete picture of the crime levels. And I don't say this to instill fear. I say this because the community and the people have to also pressure government and push government to act on this immediately. And that can be done firstly by getting more police officers on the ground. And right. Yes, then we can look at long-term measures like you've mentioned with respect to prevention and intervention.
Well, I don't think think we're arguing the point about more police officers are required. I mean, I've been talking about that repeatedly, and I get some of the numbers directly from the association, talk about what an actual full complement of roster would look like versus what we have today. So no argument there. And I'm not downplaying the role police play in crime prevention, because I use the same phrases all the time. Nothing slows you down quite like a squad car, and nothing deters crime on the street quite like a police in the neighborhood, a police officer in the neighborhood. So we're absolutely on the same page there. I just think that there's also, and I'm not trying to be willy-nilly or Pollyanna here, but a surefire way for there to be less crime is for there to be less criminals. So attacking both at the same time, because sometimes this is not about me or you. Sometimes government kind of takes small bites. Sometimes that's pragmatic, sometimes it's a waste of time, because by the time you take a small bite, chew it and swallow it, then the pie got bigger. So we just have to be a bit more focused here on all of these contributing factors. And you're not wrong. I understand the concept of more police because of the two phrases that I use constantly on this program. Anything else quickly, Helen, before we get to the news?
Yeah, you are right as well, but we need to look at reform of our entire justice system. And that, it is a multifaceted problem, no doubt. And and I'm not disagreeing with you either. But we do have to start now. Like this is serious when we look at these stats. And I know when I just look at, for example, when I was reading about other provinces, and the fact that some of the trend is that their crime rates are going down, and I looked at why. And for example, in Kelowna, BC, they tripled their funding for the RCMP in the past decade, and they've seen a realistic and an identifiable reduce in various crimes in the province. So that's what I'm talking about, Patty, and I think we really need to focus on that as a priority in terms of our crime reduction efforts.
Understood. I appreciate the time. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Oops, wrong button. I think I know how to work the buttons. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line 5. Paul, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you?
Best kind. How about you?
What about them Blue Jays, eh?
They look good now. Of course, they got some help from the Yankees over the course of 3 games with some pretty bad defense. But hey, that's why teams that put the ball in play are good teams.
And that's the way it works, Patty, for sure. Patty, I just wanted to call something about Uber here. That's pretty, I don't know. To me, it's disturbing anyway, I guess, lack of a better word. When your preamble there this morning, you talked about these companies talking about shopping, buying local in Canada and everything else. Like you said, they're all saying it, but doing it is a different thing. And I think they're probably following the example of the government here. Back in May, they allowed Uber were only licensed for the city of St. John's and Paradise and CBS there for a while, and the Avalon. Back in May, they gave them the option to operate right across Newfoundland and Labrador, the license that they opened up right across. So back in May, I started thinking to myself, there's something more to it than this, why they're doing this. And lo and behold, not this Monday past, but last Monday past, it was on CBC News there, that the air ambulance service that's going to be offered to the island, which is great. I'm glad they're partnering with them for everybody involved into it. But the thing is, the contract for ground transportation for medical transfers is done through Uber, which don't make no sense to me at all. It's an American company, the Newfoundland and Labrador government. Most times I talk to Mr. Gulliver and Miss Gulliver, owners of other companies, including Jiffy Cabs. I talk to the management of Jiffy Cabs. Nobody received a tender on any of this to see if they wanted to bid on it or offer the services like they used to do before. When Newfound was in business with Mr. Newell, Albert Newell, there was always a contract bids between, because you had to have wheelchair vans and stuff like this to provide that service. Uber does not have none of those services. I talked with Miss Gulliver and Mr. Gulliver. I talked with them on Thursday. And they own Newfound Citywide and Bogdan's, of course. Now, when I worked with Bogdan's back in, I think it was 2021, I was there for a while. And anyway, when we got the contract for medical transfers for Newfoundland and Labrador, all the drivers had to go do first aid, defensive driving course, and working with people with disabilities. And I agree with it 100%. I did it on my days off. All the drivers did. It was an expense, so I think it was about probably $450 or $500 at the time. I can't quite remember. But anyway, so the Newfoundland and Labrador government just gave it to Uber. Like, you know, so for medical transfers that are coming into the city by air, ambulance or anything. So if you're in town for a month or a week or a day or a year or whatever the case may be, or out of town, or if you got to travel to Corner Brook for something. And what it's doing, I checked with Corner Brook, I checked with Deer Lake, Gander, all those taxi stands. Nobody heard anything about it. So all these taxi stands that are locally owned and operated, that pay taxes to the city, that pay and their towns, of course, and everything else. Business taxes. They provide jobs to people in the offices, the ladies that work there, the gentlemen that work there, the drivers. Just alone here in the city, between the four taxi companies, we sat down and kind of figured it out between us on Thursday. There's about 12 or 1,400 drivers here, full and part time. They're eventually dwindling away, and I'm too stubborn to give it up. But anyway, they're eventually dwindling away. There's guys taking cars off in the last little while. There's been 3 brokers at Jiffy, which amounted to about 40 cars. They packed it in. They took the cars off the road. They can't afford the insurance and everything else. Now, the government, when they announced this down at Kitty Bitty, Fury, who jumped the gun, he announced that he would help the taxi drivers with look into their insurance rates and everything else, which quite, it's about $10,000 a car now. So with Uber, those guys have no vulnerable sector checks. We don't even know if they got criminal background checks because I checked with the government. So they're playing tag up there because it went from Sarah Studley to Elvis Lovelace. Now it's back to Sarah Studley, and you can't get no answers from nobody. They have nothing on file about any drivers here doing ride sharing, including Uber. They says Uber has all that on file. You contact Uber, they won't release no data. That was proven with Mr. Nafta when they got the punch in the head downtown. The RNC couldn't even get any information on that one. So how, I can't figure it out for the life of me. When the taxi drivers, and they also got to have wheelchair accessible vehicles. Uber has none of this. They don't take service dogs. I had to go to the airport 2 weeks ago, pick up a lady with a service dog, bring her to the Jag Hotel. She had an Uber booked. The guy wouldn't take her. So anyway, someone helped her with the app for Jiffy. I went out and I got her and brought her to the hotel, and she was quite happy with our service and said that she won't be calling any Ubers anytime soon here in the city. She was from Mata province. So, Lloyd Parrott was on there yesterday with you, and like he said, they're just awarding contracts because they think they can do it. Like, they got everything here in shambles as it is, the healthcare, the school teachers, the daycares, and everything else. Now they're adding the taxi industry to it. Like, I don't know, and I can't get any answers. Like, there's nobody will talk to me. It used to be digital services, now it's digital government, now it's something else, now it's something else. And like I said, there's no one in there that can even call you back and let you know what's going on. They have nothing on file about these drivers. So how are they awarding this contract to Uber when they don't have these services? And the taxi drivers had to do it.
A good question. I mean, you've made your pitch many times about where the money goes, where it stays if you use a locally owned and operated cab company versus use ride share. And of course, people will do exactly as they see fit. Locally around here, I choose to use taxis when I need one. I admit when I travel, I'm more reliant on ride sharing. But then, of course, I care a little bit less about money staying in Toronto versus money staying in St. John's. I'll admit that freely. Paul, anything else before I take another call?
No, I'd like for you to be able to reach out. Like, Sarah Studley got no problems coming on TV talking about AI and all the good things they're doing. Why can't one of them come on your show? And I mean, like, I'd like for the public to have some input into this too, right? Because I mean, the local cabbies here, like, I'm telling you now, I'm not whining about if I wasn't making any money, which I'm not making a lot, I'd find something else to do. But it's the principle of how the government is like, and he's there now in Ontario at that resort, and they're talking about, you know, buy Canada, shop Canada, spend Canada, and all this. And the first thing they do, they give a medical transport in Newfoundland and Labrador, to give it to an American company that doesn't have any of the services that the taxi companies can offer, which is wheelchair vans, first aid drivers, you know, defensive driving courses and all this stuff. It don't make no sense how they just gave it to Uber and they have nothing. So I don't know if it's about time to talk to somebody. Personally, I'm thinking about talking to somebody legally about it. It's at that point now, and I think the owners of the cab companies, they should look at it also. I think it's somewhere to go, because they're doing it in Quebec and Toronto and other places. There's lawsuits gone in, and there's stuff like that.
Right.
And personally, the government, the Newfoundland Labrador government right now, the Liberals, they're treating us like dirt, and they're putting us on the back burner. And I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. So it's about time for for us, the drivers itself, step up and do something about it.
Appreciate the time, Paul. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Paddy. Have a good day, buddy.
You too, pal. Bye-bye. All right. Another one, Dave? Yeah. Fire. Let's do line number 2. Good morning, Leslie. You're on the air.
Hi, Paddy. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you. How about you?
I'm great. I want to talk to you just quickly to get it out to the public about the Firefit challenge that's happening in CBS this weekend. So CBS Fire Department is hosting the Regional Firefit Championships on July 26th and 27th, so Saturday and Sunday. There'll be lots of activities. People can come out and see the firefighters compete. But most importantly, I work for K&D Pratt, and there is a charity fun run Firefit competition tomorrow. So up at the station this morning, we went up to register our teams and found out that registration is quite low. So I just want to kind of throw the gauntlet down to other companies and just members of the general public that would like to get out and support this great event. So basically what it is they're going to be raising money for the CBS Paradise Community Food Bank, as well as the Sammy Climb Higher Foundation. And community groups can enter, you have to be 18 years or older. There is a registration fee, and they come out and they run the course relay style, just for a bit of fun, for bragging rights, for some team building, some community involvement. We're always saying that there's not enough community events out there, and people are looking for ways to be involved. This is a great way for your company to get involved. So Katie Pratt has 2 teams entered tomorrow. We'll have the Katie Pratt Hose Bros and the Hot Mess Express. And we'd like to throw the gauntlet down to all other community groups, certainly businesses here on the Avalon. It's not too late to put in a team. And we'd like to see as many people come out and support this cause as possible.
I think it's fabulous. And what I'll have to tell you is, as much as I'm listening, I read it as the Fire Pit Challenge.
Oh, no, it's Firefish.
Man, oh man.
It's Firefish, so you can see it. It's all over social media right now, and on the weekend, of course, the professional firefighters will be competing, and it'll be quite the show. There'll be activities for the children on Saturday to come up. There'll be bouncy castles and face painting and things like that. But tomorrow is the charity event, and it's only going to be successful if we get the community involved and we get people out there willing to show up and pledge their money. I think there's a $350 minimum donation to enter a team. You can have 4 or 6 people. And I want to stress, these are not athletes. Our teams alone, our Hot Mess Express is rightfully named. We have a team of just women in the office that are going to go and participate. They break the course down, so unlike the professional firefighters who will be running on the weekend, you don't have to wear anything but a pair of sneakers and shorts and a t-shirt. And there's different levels of the course. Everybody will take a little section. Someone will drag a hose. Someone will run up a flight of stairs. But it's just for fun, and it's a great way to raise money for 2 very worthwhile causes. And it's sad, this morning I was kind of disheartened when I did stop in to put our registration in to find out that there wasn't a lot of teams registered yet. But talking to Cynthia at CBS Fire Hall, there is certainly time to get your team in. And what better way to show some community pride, to get your business name out there. And we challenge, we're putting it out there publicly. Katie Pratt is coming to the table, and we challenge other companies to come and compete against us for bragging rights, if nothing else.
I hope they take the challenge up. And of course, they call the Kentucky Derby the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. Firefit is the most difficult 2 minutes in sports, as I've heard it branded before. And apologies to the Jack Hickeys of the world who are world champions on that in that stuff, because I was thinking Firepit, my God, I'm brain dead. Leslie, thanks for your time this morning. Good on Katie Pratt, and hopefully other companies and individuals take up the charge.
Wonderful. I'd just like to leave it there that if anybody is interested in reaching out or getting in contact with Cynthia at the CBS Fire Hall to register a team, you can reach out to her at 6540. She's at extension 1, and she would be more than happy to set your company or it can be a family, it can be a community group, it can be anybody, 4 to 6 people, and come out and show some support tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Man, what's wrong with me? Am I taking Dion here? Okay, let's get another one. Line number 6. Dion, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. First of all, thank you for taking my call and giving me the opportunity to, put out a public service announcement about the CNIB's annual garden party that will be happening this Saturday, August 26th, with the rain date of the 27th. Of course, Patty, this is going to be happening on our grounds here up at the rear of the building, located at 70 The Boulevard down by Kitty Vitty Lake. We're going to have all kinds of fun for the kids and adults. We're going to have live entertainment. We got, of course, the bouncy castle. We have all kinds of representation from different community groups, CNIB, vision loss rehabilitation. Some science experiments will be going on there with our friends at Let's Talk Science, and of course LifeWise will be there, and loads of other groups. We'll have hot dogs and hamburgers there to give away to everyone, drinks of course, and Patty, all of this is completely free. We started this probably 4 years ago. I believe this is the 4th this year, and basically it's just a way for us to give back to the community. You, I'm sure, know the importance of volunteers and how they make not-for-profits keep going smoothly. Basically, a lot of the stuff, the services and programs that we provide to our clients and participants, a lot of them wouldn't be able to happen, Patty, without the help of the volunteers. Last year, Lions Club joined us, and they always send down great representation to give us a hand. And I guess if I could put another little shout out to the Lions Club, CNIB here in Newfoundland and Labrador is the only, or Newfoundland and Labrador actually, is the only province that actually give out free mobility canes to our clients. Everywhere else across Canada, unfortunately, they come at a cost, and it could be anywhere between $40 and $50 to purchase one of those. And luckily enough, we've been supported by the Lions Club for 13 years now. And we're just glad that we could do this every year to give back to the community. And I'm glad you are. Good luck with it. So for folks who were at the Lieutenant Governor's garden party yesterday, don't put away your fascinators. You can go to the garden party at the CNIB tomorrow. Good to have you on, Dion. Good luck with it. Absolutely, my buddy. And that's on Saturday. On Saturday, pardon me. Right. I was kind of wishing today was Friday. Okay, thanks, Dion. All right, bye-bye. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're talking taxes. Don't go away. Oh, welcome back. Let's go to line number 1. Wayne, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Great show you have this morning. It's very, very interesting about how everybody is concerned with what's going on with the world today. I'm calling this morning because of the 42% that we're paying in taxes off our wages that we get. So actually what that means is 58% of your dollar that you take home is all you have to spend. And I think this news said that was higher than you're spending in housing, food, transportation. That's the biggest part of your income is going to taxes. It's sad to see that the governments have to do what they want with their money, and all they need to do to pay off their bills is the government bills, which is our money that they're spending, by the way. They're upping taxes to get the money to waste. There's an awful lot more ways to get money than taxes. We have the oil resources out there. Newfoundland has probably more natural resources than any other province in Canada. So we should be focusing on developing all these and getting some income back from that as it's being developed, and lower the taxes for the people, because people can't afford to live.
Yeah, I mean, I know the story as well. Let's just add to it. So that tax number, that includes everything. Federal taxes, provincial taxes, local taxes, income payroll, sales, property tax. So that's everything. It's not just income tax that we pay to the government. Just so that people have an idea. If you have an average average individual income of $83,000, you paid about $35,000 in tax last year. That is a huge number. And when you talk about food and housing and transportation, we pay more taxes than all of those things combined. which is a mouthful. You know, typical Canadian household spends about 37% of its income on the base necessities, right? Rent, mortgage, food, clothing, adds up to, for the average typical family in the country, around $30,000-ish. So it's a big, big number.
Well, you got to also think, you know, when people are going to the grocery store and they can't afford to buy groceries for their kids that are hungry. Okay, thank God the school has breakfast programs and stuff like that. Some of these kids wouldn't probably eat in the mornings. But maybe that's some of the small crimes that's happening, is the shoplifting and stuff like that, because people don't have enough money to feed their family properly and heat their family home. You know, I've heard of lots of people that they bear off 90% of the home to heat one room because they can't afford the electricity or the oil bill, which is also taxed.
Yep.
You know, you can't get away from it.
Yeah, no, poverty is part of the crime numbers, like I was mentioning off the top of the program. There's a few things that have changed. You know, whether you use the Consumer Price Index measure over the years, if you look back to the early 60s, I'm trying to recall the story now, Canadians spent about one-third, about 32.5% versus the 42.5% on taxes, all the aforementioned taxes. Two-thirds of the income went to the obvious, the food, clothing, housing. Since then, from, say, 32.5% in the early 60s to 42.5% now, there's also stuff that happened in 1966, which is certainly a contributing factor to the tax issue. That was universal health care. You know, first went to Saskatchewan in 1966. The country signed onto universal health care. So that is part of the increase, but the most recent increase is to your basic point at the top of this. Taxes going up, which they are, or they have been over the course of the last decade. The biggest question to be asked is, where does the money go? How much of it is being wasted? Where are we not doing better on the revenue side here? So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what you were saying off the top, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, we have a lot of natural resources that we're probably not getting enough back from it. I mean, we get money from the offshore. Are we getting more money from the gold and the iron ore that's being mined? There's so much per ton, because that's a way of us increasing our income as a province. The more money we have to spend, then we should be looking for it in other ways rather than out of somebody's pocket.
Agreed. I think there's lots of activity happening on the mining front. The only real activity in, say, for instance, if we're talking natural resources as oil, then some minimal explorations on the go. There's one oil field approved, as we all know, Bay du Nord, which could bring significant additional wealth to the province. I'm anxiously awaiting some sort of final investment decision from Equinor, because that's been approved for a few years now. So we'll see where that goes. There's also some helpful charts and graphs out there regarding income as compared to the amount of taxes that we've been paying. Income is steadily rising, and I'm not saying that 42.5% is the acceptable tax number, because I'm a taxpayer. I think I pay too much in taxes, to be honest with you. But it's a fascinating story as broken down by, I can't even remember who provided that story. Maybe the Fraser Institute, was it?
I can't remember either. I think the news did say who provided it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a valuable topic to be on, you know, like, and the government today should be starting to spend our money, which is our taxes, the way that they would spend their own, instead of wasting it in different things. Their priorities are not our priorities.
No, and there's some fundamental reasons why. And this is not a comment for every single public sector servant or public sector employee. I'm much more careful with my money because it's my money. People work for the government oftentimes are not as careful as me and you are, because it's not their money. It's easy to spend other people's money. And it's easy to be not as cautious and careful and as diligent as me and you are, because we earned it. We worked for it. But for governments, it's not their money. And they should do much better by us. We're your employer. We are the ones that pay your salaries. We're the ones that allow you to be able to pay your tax bill. So maybe do better with my money.
Exactly. I mean, you know, like, spending it is very important, because the more you spend unwisely, is the less for everything else. I mean, if you look at that, the mental health facility that they spent $42 million or $40-odd million over what the lowest bid was, that was the new school that they're building now, that they're planning on building. That was the cost of the new school. why, that's the whole thing. They got to spend their money more wisely and do it better for us as people paying the taxes and not wasting it in different ways for friends or whatever they're doing. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Good conversation regarding taxes and how government spends money is always a worthwhile conversation, and I'm glad you called to discuss it this morning, Wayne.
Well, thanks, Paddy, for taking my call. I really appreciate it, and you have a great show.
Thank you very much. Stay in touch.
Okay, I will.
All right, bye-bye. All right, I think it is time for a break. When we get back, we're talking Marine Atlantic and homesteading. There's an art show to look forward to, and then whatever you want to talk about. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let us go. Line number 6. Colin, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty. Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
So, yeah, I have a car was stolen from me there last week off of my street on Appledore Place by Churchill Square there. I don't know how they got the keys. They might have opened my door and got them off the counter, but I'd just like to put out the APB on a white Subaru Forester. It's a 2015. So the distinguishing features of that would be that I have a string wrapped around the cross member on the front of the roof rack there. There's a blue sticker on the back, and there was like a croissant Christmas ornament hanging from the rearview mirror.
Buddy probably ate that.
He might have had a bite of that. Well, I hope he did, because it probably wouldn't taste very good.
Yeah, good. I mean, just a couple of quick questions. Did you have like a push-button ignition in the car, or do you have to put a key in?
No, it's a key ignition.
Yeah, because just some of the warnings we've been given, and this is not about your vehicle, but if you have like one of these keyless fobs, they can mimic that right through the door. Which is
they can make a copy.
Yeah, which is crazy town. The manufacturers need to do better to help us protect our vehicles. So you got a 2015 white Subaru. Did you say it was an Outback or?
No, it was a Forester.
It's a Forester. A white Subaru Forester with some distinguishing features, as mentioned, maybe minus a croissant hanging off the rearview mirror. Man, I hope you get it back, Colin. What a nuisance this is.
Thanks a lot, Patty. There was also a blue sticker on the back left side. Dave reposted my Facebook post onto your guys' Twitter account, so all the information and some pictures would be there, along with the license plate.
Fingers crossed. Let me know, Colin.
All right, I really appreciate that, Patty, and thanks, Dave, for having me on, too.
No problem at all. Stay in touch.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Man. Let's go. Line number 4. Say good morning to Martin Warford. He's with ATS Transport. Good morning, Martin. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Daly. How are you today, sir?
Fine, thank you. How about you?
I'm okay, I think. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I wanted to bring up some issues that currently existing with Marine Atlantic, and I know that we've been discussing this in prior history. But myself personally, so here's my situation. On June 6th at 2 a.m. in the morning, I arrived at Marine Atlantic's terminal in North Sydney, Nova Scotia. I was the only vehicle on the parking lot except for the security truck and the baggage van in which they use to load passengers and baggage aboard the boat. So I was anticipating being on the boat the next morning at being loaded, being around 10 and leaving on the noon boat. However, that didn't happen. What did happen was a bunch of RVs, campers, and I understand the tourism, I get all of that, and also the Amazon truck drivers from Ontario and wherever that bring the stuff down for Amazon. Now, when I had been overlooked, I had reached out to my employer at ATS Transport, and he asked me to go in and ask at the counter what the situation was. So upon asking what the situation was, I asked the lady at the counter why I was there. It made no sense. I wouldn't have been on that particular boat. And she said to me that I was not on her planner and that there was some sort of oversight. So at which point I said, okay, well, maybe we could rectify it by backing another truck off the boat and putting mine on, as I had customers across the islands who were anticipating the delivery during that day or the following morning. The lady then informed me that they would not be backing any trucks off, and I said, okay, very well. Would I be compensated, because it will now take an extra 24 hours of my time to get back home? Her response was that she wasn't liking my tone. I responded, well, I wasn't partial to hers, at which point the commissioner of security walked over and was in very close proximity, and I backed away a half a step, and I asked the lady why she was walking towards me, being the Marine Atlantic security. She said, I'm not walking towards you, and I said to her, you literally just walked towards me, as you said, I'm not walking towards you. So I had dealings with them in the past, and it's not always been quite amicable. But now, keeping in mind, I've crossed on this ferry over 500 times without really any issues. So basically, I walked outside to alleviate the conversation. I didn't, went, had a coffee, and came back in. And one time I walked back in, I was met by the security lady, two of the ladies behind the counter, and another individual that I've subsequently come to find is part of their administration team. The lady then addressed me as Mr. Warford, and she said, I want to talk to you. And I said to her, which in retrospect may not have been the most polite, I said, I'm sorry, but everything about your opinion that would have mattered to me right now has just sailed out the harbor when they closed the door on that boat. I was basically not allowed to walk past them. They physically stood between me and the entry gate into the facility, at which point I said, I'm not interested in having any of this conversation. I'm obviously going to be maybe on the boat tonight if all goes well. And as long as I keep my P's and Q's in order, I could possibly not be barred from getting on the boat. So that being said, it continued on for some conversation, in which the point I finally said, look, I'm not interested in your opinion. There is no reasonable excuse why a truck could sit here for 10 hours being the only one on the lot, the boat come and go, and I'd still potentially be the only one on the lot with the other 4 trucks that come behind me. Now, with that being said, I was situationally in the position where I could watch these drivers come in that are hauling Amazon. And what the people of Newfoundland do not understand, or maybe they do, is Amazon, because of the value of their freight, they pay double the rate. So for me, for my tractor trailer, my company is at $735 each way per crossing, which I think is exorbitant when you look at the fact that Nova Scotia people don't pay for their toll booths, PEI does not pay for the Confederation Bridge, Ontario and Quebec residents don't pay subsequently for their toll areas. So that being said, there's a situation now that exists where people who haul for Amazon, they do not require advance notice. They go across both ways. So when they leave Nova Scotia coming to Newfoundland, they are full. When they leave Newfoundland coming back to Nova Scotia, they are empty. And they have the ability to pay double the rate, that's almost $1,500 each way, because of the value of their freight, which I believe should be stopped. I have no problem with vehicles that are hauling reefers and the food for the people of Newfoundland, or medical supplies for people from Newfoundland, or even for that matter infrastructure, pipe, essential service portions, but I do not believe that Amazon Freight should consider it an essential service. During the whole time of COVID, I worked every single day, to the point where I was actually brought on the boat. We were handled like prisoners. We were locked in a room with a sandwich, an apple, and a bottle of water. We put it through it. We did everything we could, and at that point, all the truckers were considered heroes. And now we are back to the same point we were years ago, and for many years, where Marine Atlantic treats the people who operate these commercial vehicles and the small business owners, and without dropping too many names, I mean, Akita is there, Coast to Coast is there, but we are basically being held at a disadvantage financially, which in my opinion should be unconstitutional. Because the Constitution guarantees you freedom from persecution based on race, sexual orientation, religious belief, etc., 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 but it should also protect us from financial. So because our freight is not as high priority or as high valued as these guys, we are basically at the hands of a crown corporation, and now being held that if we don't have that kind of money to spend, then we don't get to get on this boat. So, on that same subject, I've now been banned for 2 weeks. I crossed heading over into Nova Scotia on the 13th day of July. On the 14th, registered mail was received by my employer informing me that within 6 days I would have to be at home, or I would be then banned, truck, trailer, and myself, and anybody's particular freight that happened to be on my truck, for a period not less than 2 weeks. This decision is made by one man who has given no contact information, Steve Douglas from Marine Atlantic. He has given no contact information, no return email. There is no appellate process. There is no reversing of this decision whatsoever. I am basically being kept landlocked. And their argument is that they have that right constitutionally because I could fly. Now, I don't know about yourself, Mr. Daly, but I've never tried to take a 72-foot truck and trailer and try to jam it in my overhead bag. It doesn't work. Yeah. So, that being said, they are holding me by the throat. The small business is being held by the throat. I've reached out. They're not giving me any options. This is basically written in stone. There is no my side of the story. They had 5 weeks, at which point they've had all my contact information, address, home address, phone numbers, bosses, phone numbers, contact information, and email. And they waited till the day after they had known for sure that I was on the other side of the mainland, away from my home, issue me this morning.
It's a bizarre way to handle business. We do have a scheduled interview coming up with Marine Atlantic. Not exactly sure when. I got a response via email this morning, so I can put circumstances like yours to them when I get a chance. I have to get going here now, Martin, but I'm sorry to hear your struggles.
Very good, sir. And also, just so people understand, like there's a lot of times these trailers are sitting on that dock with reefers running, extended amounts of time while their food, people's food, their oranges, their apple, all that stuff is sitting on the dock, getting freeze-dried or burnt or going bad, while Amazon freight goes ahead of everybody else. It's unconstitutional, it's not fit, and it needs to be addressed.
Understood, and I will, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Michelle. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. How about you?
I'm doing really well. I'm calling this morning to share a little bit of good news with everybody.
Let's hear it.
So, I want to talk about all the wonderful art activities happening in Carbonear all summer long. We don't want you to miss the summer art show and sale. This is an annual thing that happens at the Princess Sheila Nagara Theater. So it's in the community room. So, this is a 2-day event, July 25th, which is Friday, tomorrow, and July 26th. It's from 11 until 4 at the 256 Water Street location. So it's the community hall, the theater, that building. But it's hosting 13 incredible local artists. We've got art friends coming from St. John's and all the surrounding areas, and we're kind of getting together here for this event to sell these one-of-a-kind art pieces, and they're all for sale. But these are established artists, so they've been working for a number of years. So, the show really brings some value to the community and to the area. So come on in, check us out, ask some questions. But, that's not all we have going on. You could stroll down the street to 210 Water Street. There's a pop-up art exhibition. Now, this one's running all summer long, from Wednesday to Saturday, 11 to 4. So this features the Group of 5. So the Group of 5, I'm also included in this one. It's artists Merle Suley, Diane Harris, Tracy Oates, Randy Blundin, and myself. So we'll be there all July and all of August. So, we'd love for you to come by this weekend, and while you're in town, kind of stroll down the street. But not only that, it just keeps growing. I've been very supported by the town of Carbonear, and I feel really blessed by that. So they've hired me to teach free classes all summer long. So once a week, if you're feeling inspired or if you're curious, we're doing plein air painting. So basically, we're painting outside. And it's not really step-by-step instruction, but there's a lot of value. I've got a bunch of videos and things up, so pop on our Facebook pages and, see what we're all about. We meet once a week. There is a schedule, so you can go on the Town of Carbonear site, or you can go on my Facebook site, Michelle Pennywell of Carbonear, and, you can help us celebrate art, support local, and just be a part of it. I mean, as far as I know, there's a lot of great things happening, but we've got an abundance, and I'd love to share that with everybody.
Sounds terrific. Are you Michelle at Michelle's Fine Art School?
I am indeed.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I'm glad I made that connection. The amount of top quality art in every area of art produced in this province is just out of this world. We punch so far above our weight class. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, there's so much talent, and I feel really blessed to represent people and give them a platform so they can show their work. And, we've been doing this. You and I have been having this conversation now for 10 years or more. I call in every year, and, you love to share the events and things that we're involved in. So thank you for that.
Oh, happy to play a very minuscule role in sharing some good news here. We don't have enough good news on this program some days, it feels like. So give the folks the details one more time, Michelle, what you want them to know before we get to the news.
Okay, so 2 days only. We have an art show and sale in Carbonear. That's Friday, Saturday from 11 to 4. That's at 256 Water Street, the community hall. We also have a summer show going on all summer long at 210 Water Street. The Group of Five have an exhibition going on there Wednesday through Saturday, 11 to 4. And if you are inspired and curious, come join us weekly. And you can learn a little bit about painting, or, come join us, paint, sit, take a book, enjoy, embrace yourself, embrace the arts.
Appreciate this, Michelle. Knock 'em dead.
Okay, thanks, Patty. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Something to be at. Let's see here. We spoke with Colin earlier about his stolen right out of his driveway on Appledore Place there by Churchill Park, a 2015 white Subaru Forester. The hanging croissant, the blue sticker on the back. And here's the license plate number if you'd like to keep an eye. JUY 385. So that's JUY 385. Let's take a break for the news. When we come back, we're homesteading. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
They're okay. Well, and we're back. Let's go to line number 5. Todd, you're on the air.
How you doing today, sir?
Doing okay. How about you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Patty, I'm calling today. I appreciate you taking my call, by the way. I'm calling today with regards to homesteading or farming at home or whatever. And like yourself, myself, and everybody out there that owns a property, you're fairly proud of your own property, right? You like the peace and quiet and tranquility.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah, I like to take care of it.
Yeah. Sure, exactly. We all do. Most people. However, in some towns and jurisdictions, it's not always possible. I'll bring you down to my circumstance. The reason why I'm calling you today. Basically, I live in town at Harbour Main, Chapels Cove, Lakeview, and I moved in there 18 years ago. I bought the property because it was nice and quiet, peaceful, beautiful, which is what the wife and I were actually looking for. And a few years after we moved in, the neighbor next door decided that he retired and decided he wanted to get into a hobby farm, which is fine. I'm not against hobby farms in any way, shape, or form. When they're actually a hobby farm or a small farm, right? My question to you: if I were your neighbor and I wanted to have some birds to raise, chickens and so forth, what would you consider to be a reasonable number?
A reasonable number of chickens?
Chickens, turkeys, yes.
Oh my goodness!
Next door to yours.
I don't know. I suppose it would also include, how much property you were talking about being occupied by chickens and turkeys. I really don't know what an appropriate number would be. I don't know, dozen?
Exactly. Well, I'm talking less than an acre, so roughly around an acre of land. So how about if I told you I had 62 turkeys that I know of, 62 that I can count. And if you look at a photograph I just sent you, you'll see it. You'll see some of them. 62 turkeys, I'm going to say at least 15 or 20 hens, a rooster that's crowing all hours of the day and night. And these turkeys, I don't know if you know much about turkeys, but when they get acclimated to the surrounding area, they actually bark like dogs, believe it or not. So you can be sitting in my backyard, or actually that photograph that I sent you was actually taken right from my front steps. So I could be you and I could be out there having a coffee in the evening, and we literally will not be able to hear each other talk from the ruckus next door. And we brought this up to the town. We brought it up to the individual, and basically he just laughs at you. Brought it up to the town, same thing. They say it's beyond their control. If you look at the government regulations stipulates that anywhere from 0 to 100 units. Now, I believe 100 units is classified as a 90 birds or 100 birds. So 0 to 100 units, you got to be 900 meters. 982 feet, away from bordering or neighboring property. And as you can see by that photograph, we're nowhere close to that.
No, it's a stone's throw. It's right there.
It's stone's throw. It's right there. Yeah. And we're to the point of being actually driven away from our property because you cannot go outside to enjoy it. And the municipality don't seem to give a crap about it, and it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating, and like, where can a guy turn?
It's a good question.
Talk to the individual. Yeah.
Well, the municipality holds all the cards here. So above their heads is only the Department of Municipal Affairs, but I would imagine they'd be loath to get involved. But that's the only next step if you're talking about government policy and enforcement of.
Yeah.
No one is enforcing.
Yeah, no one is enforcing it. A lot of people know what's going on there is incorrect. And they know what's going on there is wrong. And like I said, that particular property that I'm talking about there is neighboring 4 other properties, and everybody's in the same boat. And not only the noise, it's the odor that we continually get. Not only that, when you're feeding birds, you're spreading feed on the ground. That brings in other birds from wild ducks. Other small birds that are on the ground there picking up feed as well.
Rats.
And that brings in rats, 100%, sir. And the number of rats and shrews that's increased in our area, and foxes in the last little while since this started is phenomenal. And that it all goes hand in hand, 100%. Like, I don't mind. I mean, I am not against, a couple of 4 or 5 chickens for eggs, personal use. I'm not against 2 or 3 turkeys for personal use. When you're in the neighborhood of 62 turkeys, do not tell me that's personal use. That's commercial. Right?
It certainly sounds like it. So here's the question. Yeah. What does your neighbor have to say? Because obviously you've spoken to the homesteader.
Yeah, the neighbor says there's going to be more next year.
Oh.
Get used to it.
That's pleasant.
Yeah, great friends, eh? Yeah, and that's after, like, to be honest with you, I can tell you a story, but I'm thinking into it online. But before we even purchased this property, we talked to that individual because there was actually a string of trees up there that was deliberately cut down to make it more visual, pleasant for me. So, but anyway, I just wanted to bring it forward to make people aware of what's going on, and basically, homesteading is something that needs to be controlled. Birds for personal private use needs to be controlled, and currently it's not. It's okay for the person or the individual that wants to do it, but it's you got to take into consideration residential area should not be allowed.
Well, for starters, I don't think anyone should be able to have a rooster in a residential neighborhood. A group or a gaggle of turkeys, I think is what it's called, it can be an extremely noisy collection of birds, no doubt about it. As they say, sometimes the best neighbor is a tall fence, and in this case, that's what it sounds like. Now, for backyard farming or homesteading, there is a place for it, but under circumstances that are, understanding of the fact that you've got neighbors. So a controlled number of birds for your own personal use, fair enough. But 61 turkeys sounds like it's over the top to me.
Yeah, it is. And again, when it comes to slaughter time, it's done there as well. Up to now, it has been anyway. I can't say about this year because, well, obviously this year is yet to come, but they also be slaughters on property, and the refuse or the remains be buried again on property. So.
Well, it sounds like a quasi-commercial operation. I would also wonder whether or not the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is aware of this potential commercial operation, because that's its own kintle of fish that maybe you can explore.
That's right. Yeah. Well, actually, we have been reaching out to different agencies, and we will continue to do that again this year.
I appreciate the time. Keep me in the loop, Todd.
I appreciate your time, sir. Have yourself a great day.
Same to you. You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, 61 turkey sounds like a lot to me. The rooster going cracked all day? Sounds like a lot to me. Let's see here. Homesteading and backyard farming. Look, at a certain level, I think a lot of people want to do it for a variety of reasons. Cost of living pressures and whether it's a hobby or not. And some of the rules of municipalities around the province are actually governed by all British legislation that's like 150 years old. So I understand Todd's concern. I think I would share it. Let's take a break. When we come back, Laurie's looking to something. There's not a word there that finishes off that sentence, so we'll see what Laurie has to say. Danny has a question about Beta Nord, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Laurie. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thank you for having me.
Happy to do it.
I am calling to let people know. I know that my aunt called in last month about the Cabot Tower was supposed to light up for Batten Disease Awareness Day, which was June 9th. And I'm not sure what happened, but they did reach out and apologize and let us know that they'd like to make that up. And they're going to light up on August 30th. A lot of people were upset, and they emailed me, and I had texts and phone calls and all of that. And I do understand people's disappointment. I was disappointed as well. But I know as well that things happen. I don't know, the reason why it got missed, but the main thing is that they're going to offer alternate date for that. And the date that we have chosen is a really significant date because right now there's only one affected family that we know of in Newfoundland whose child is diagnosed with Batten disease, and that is Jersey from Port aux Basques. Her older sister, Ava, sorry, I'm going to try not to get emotional, but Ava passed away in 2017. I might have the year wrong, but it was August 30th, and that is the date that Cabot Tower will light up. So it's to make up for Batten Disease Awareness Day, but it's also to honor Ava from Port aux Basques, who had Batten disease as well.
I know a family in Alberta, child has Batten disease, somewhere in late teens, and has deteriorated dramatically in the recent past. So just so people know what we're talking about, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know it's a neurodegeneration disease that attacks the nervous system. And life expectancy maybe as old as 30, but that's about it. It's considered a rare condition, but there is no cure. And
there isn't.
No. I mean, I know they're trying things like enzyme replacement therapy and gene stem cell research and gene therapy, but there is no cure for this absolutely brutal disease. I mean, you talk about delayed motor skills and blindness and seizures and eventually losing all cognitive form. It's just so sad.
It is, and I can speak firsthand. My son Daniel had Batten disease. He passed away in January of 2021, and I am currently the president of the Canadian Batten Disease Support Research and Advocacy. So we connect with families. So if this family in Alberta, I'm also in Alberta, if they're wanting to reach out and make connections with other families, you can pass along my email address. I can give the email address for the organization as well. And so when you're saying there is no cure, there is enzyme replacement therapy for only one type, and that is the only treatment available that is FDA approved in the entire world for any type of Batten disease. There's 13 different types, and the life expectancy varies depending on the type. So Daniel was 9 years old. His type, historically, the life expectancy is between 6 and 12 years old. So Ava, who I was speaking about, was 6 years old when she passed away.
Yeah. I will send my pal a note to see if he'd like to have me share your email address with him, which I'm obviously happy to do. And it's too bad that the date that was prior decided on was missed, and I'm glad they're willing to reschedule, regardless if it's rare or not. We commemorate so much, and we use those lights and different days throughout the year to consider and to talk about different issues, and Batten disease should be no different. Oh my. Laurie, anything else you'd like to talk about this morning?
I just am glad to share that update, and that we need awareness, and we need more treatments, and we definitely need a cure. So, yeah, if anybody would like to reach out to, it's CanadaBDSRA@gmail.com is the email address, and if you look up Batten Disease Canada, you'll find our website. We're updating it. It'll look better pretty soon, I hope. But yeah, reach out to me at any time.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's keep going. Line number 1. Danny, you're on the air.
Yeah, Patty, how you doing?
Okay, Danny, how about you?
Good. The Bay North, are they drilling out there now?
No.
No.
Not as far as I know.
Who's going to take over when they pump the oil out of the ocean floor? ExxonMobil?
ExxonMobil? No.
Sunco?
No. ExxonMobil's out at Hibernia and, of course, at Hebron. The operator at Bay du Nord would be Equinor, which used to be Statoil.
Okay. Are they going to build a platform like the White Rose South? Or?
No, they're talking about an FPSO.
Yeah. I'm more in the platforms because it's a lot more easy to maintain.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, Equinor as a company, they've made the decision that it's at least one, maybe 2 FPSOs. They've actually started some of the conversation with different companies about leasing for their operations out there. And Equinor has a partner with BP. And, of course, the province is also talking about taking an equity stake, but Equinor would be the operator.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're going to be using a ship.
Yeah. Floating production and storage.
Yeah, they got drilled first, aren't they?
Well, as far as I know, all the exploration is done. And Bay du Nord is not just one hole in the ground. It's 8 different fields that would be tied, subsea tiebacks. So, yeah, it's a pretty expensive and maybe a very lucrative oil field. They're talking about maybe billions of barrels of oil at Bay du Nord.
Yeah.
Yep.
I still going back over the turnover. I don't think they're going to spend a lot of money on what they got at to pump oil out of the ocean floor. But I guess they're not going to build a platform for it anyways.
Oh, plus, we're talking about extraordinarily deep water.
Yeah.
It would be the deepest.
Like the White Rose is deep water.
Yeah, nothing like what we're talking about at Bay du Nord. Bay du Nord would be the deepest water oil producing field out there that we've discovered at this moment in time. Danny, any other quick questions before I go to the news?
Did he put the shovels down to the new hospital up on Kmart Road, St. Clair's?
No.
And how about the jail? Have they started that?
The jail, no.
So, election doc.
Well, it looks like it's going to get built. I mean, they've been kicking that around for years, if not decades. So I guess we'll all find out around the same time. But I would imagine both are going to happen. I mean, St. Clair's is, kind of arrived at its best before date. And Her Majesty's Penitentiary arrived at that decades ago. So it's going to get done. And I haven't heard either party say that they would not proceed with either of those projects. So that's what I can tell you for today. Danny, I'm off to the newscast. I appreciate your time. Hope you're doing well.
You too. Thank you. Have a nice day. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Danny. You too, buddy.
You going to the games for the summer Canada games?
Yeah, I'm going to go see some for sure.
Tickets are not cheap.
No, I know.
And are you going on to the Crystal Square concert?
I'm going to a couple. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not cheap either.
No, it's not. I was given a ticket by one of my buddies for one of them, so that helped out. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a little bit of the summer fun that's ahead. And I do have to get going now, Danny, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
All right, let's take a break. When we go back, lots of show left for you. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. Say good morning to Miles Russell, running to be an at-large candidate in the city of St. John's. Good morning, Miles. You're on the air.
Good morning, Betty. Thanks for having me on again.
No problem at all. I should say he's a candidate for an at-large council position.
Yes, I think that. I don't know if there's another type of at-large, but yes, that is correct.
Right.
Patty, today I want to talk about, again, every time I call in, something to talk about on the urban sphere of things. So I wanted to talk about bike lanes and micromobility today. And a couple, before we get into anything like that, I also want to mention that the critical mass bike ride that we do every month in St. John's, that's tomorrow, starting at Bannerman Park at 6:30 p.m. We ride down to City Hall and we ride back, pending numbers and that. It's an all ages event. Anybody, there's, people who bring their children on bikes too. There's a few of us who will, block the roads and make sure it's safe for everyone to proceed through intersections, when the lights go green and things like that. So I just want to put it out there that from 6:30 to 7:30 tomorrow, starting at Bannerman Park at the Loop, we have a community bike ride. And that happens at the last Friday of every month.
Sounds awesome. I mean, and to be able to do it and guarantee it's safe is a very important feature, because riding your bike around town can be perilous.
Yes, and I guess that's why I wanted to give a call to give a perspective about cycling. So I ride a bike, but I don't identify as a cyclist, and most people I know who ride bikes, same thing. Same thing as there's a lot of people that probably don't identify as only driving a car because they walk, they might have their dog out for a walk or take a child in a stroller. So the reason I want to talk about safety in bike lanes, which you're bringing up, which is great, is that truthfully, yes, we don't have really any safe dedicated space for micromobility. And it's kind of a weird little term, but I wanted to shed a bit of light on, when advocates like myself say things like a bike lane, we don't really mean exclusively bikes. We just mean whether that's powered wheelchairs, that could be strollers, that could be e-scooters, manual scooters, basically anything with wheels, or even, mobility assistance devices. It's just essentially a way for people to get around that is independent from being on a road.
Fair enough. There's some reason, I guess, why so many people have such a big problem with bike lanes. But we have to remember the basic point here is we're sharing the road.
Yeah, so in St. John's and in Newfoundland and Labrador in general in the Highway Traffic Act, we are, anyone who rides a bike, when I'm on a bike, the rule is if there's bike infrastructure, use it, which there's not very much of. But otherwise, you're supposed to vehicular cycle. And what that means is I have to get on my bike and act like a car. Now, I don't know if, when I'm driving my car, very easy for me to do 50 kilometers an hour in a 50 very quickly. A little harder for cyclists. And, sometimes people in a car get frustrated. And realistically, I think there's a good argument for drivers to also want bike lanes, because having safe space for people to ride anywhere around the city is good for traffic as well, because like me, there's times I would love to ride bike and not be a car blocking up traffic, but it is virtually impossible for me to leave the east end of St. John's and get anywhere central city and downtown without being on either Portugal Cove Road, Torbay Road, or Logie Bay Road. All of those are absolute meat grinders for anyone on a bike, and you see a lot of people getting on the sidewalk because truthfully that's the safest thing for them to do. And, we talk about things, I've talked with you about road safety in general and road design. And, we have absolutely massive lanes on our streets. Every lane is built for heavy equipment at the maximum level or beyond of what's federally recommended. There's lots of space on our streets to be able to isolate out 3 or 4 meters for these kind of things and not even really lower the lanes. You'd still probably want to in some situations. But again, the thoroughfare and the throughput of a bike lane or, an active transit lane, much higher than a vehicle lane. 3 or 4 or 5 times more people could use it. And a funny example that I like to bring up to people is the rules on how you stop vehicular cycling or start, if I exit a bike lane, how am I supposed to become a quote vehicle? There is no law for that. Provincial government in St. John's don't have a regulations. Essentially, get off your bike, get in the lane, become car, which is really absolutely bonkers. And, it becomes a situation, a comparison would be, imagine if you went to the mall and they said to come into the mall, you must get out of your car, put it in neutral, push it onto the parking lot, and then get back in your car. No one would do that. So, there's a lot of cyclists who I will just, leave a lane and go into traffic. there's a myriad of issues about how they're built in that. But I just wanted to put kind of that out there as a start, like as a thing to talk about.
Fair enough. And just to extend that one step, what's your thoughts on shared use trails?
So, like, I use the Kellysbrook Trail quite a lot. I think it's a fantastic trail, but probably not for e-bikes. My bike can do 35 kilometers an hour regulated, but if I put a bit of muscle into it, I can get it up to 45. Wow. That's way too fast for having what I call mixed traffic. Realistically, micromobility, these e-scooters, we're starting to see these electric dirt bikes, things like this. Well, electric dirt bikes are a whole different illegal aspect of motorized transportation to some degree. But things like, you look like a city like Montreal, where they've really embraced micromobility separately from pedestrian space. And, like, again, love the Kellysbrook Trail. It's a great trail, amazing for people who have, accessibility requirements to be able to have a safe space to ride. But at the end of the day, if I'm on a bike that can go much faster, or say an electric delivery vehicle, like these small delivery bikes you see in trikes and that in Montreal, they're absolutely going gangbusters in Montreal, and it's a big economic driver. It's a lot of delivery app drivers, a lot of small vendors, even FedEx and things like that use micro bikes so they can get around much quicker than driving a van. City St. John's doesn't have any of that. We don't have any dedicated small vehicle space, and truthfully, I've been struck by 3 vehicles in my time riding bike around the city, and it's clipped by a mirror, but it still means falling off a bike. It still means, getting bruised up, and I don't think a lot of people truly understand, like, how dangerous, how big the dynamic is between, like, a vehicle and a cyclist. So, yeah, like, with the shared use path, I'd probably like to see a maximum speed limit. But on top of that, we would need somewhere for, micromobility to go, and e-bikes and regular pedal bikes and that as well. And the city doesn't have a plan for that. And, a place like Montreal has a really good strategy where they do temporary barriers. They'll make 30 or 40 kilometers every year of new temporary barriers. As they come online and become more popular, then they make some of them permanent. It's a very good system. It's very quick to expand. Like, City St. John's does not need to be spending several $1,000s or like a meter to put in these bike lanes the way they're doing it. They can just take out some extra parking spaces, narrow some of our lanes to be a little more, like, safe anyway. And it would really go a long way to making a space safe that anybody can use in the city. And realistically, like you and I chatted before, St. John's residents, and really everyone in the North Avalon, they need options. Car can't be the only option for everything.
We're a car culture, and I think people will acknowledge that. Miles, appreciate the time. Anything else this morning?
Yeah, just reminding people, tomorrow, Bannerman Park, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., all ages, all modes of transportation available for, like, bikes and scooters and that. Critical mass, come on down, the lovely ride, and this is usually the busiest time of year for us, so hope to see some people down.
Sounds good, Miles. I appreciate it. Good luck out there.
Thanks much, Matty. Cheers.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. It's Miles Russell. Bye. Running to be an at-large councillor, City St. John's, in the upcoming municipal election. Let's take our final break of the morning. Don't go away. Welcome back to the programme. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to one of the summer students with St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank. That's Rachel on 3. Rachel, you're on the air.
Hi. I'm Rachel Lucianza, summer student from the St. Vincent de Paul Carbonear Food Bank, and I want to let everyone know that we're having a community yard sale happening this Saturday, July 26th, and it starts at 10 a.m. and it ends at 3 p.m., and it's happening right next to the food bank, which is on 4th St. Clair Avenue. If it rains, we'll have it 163 Water Street in Carbonear, and proceeds from food bank tables will benefit the food bank. We have some vendors at the moment, and if anybody wanted to have a vendor table, they're available for $20 for a $20 donation. There's lots of great deals here, and there's things such as kitchenware, glassware, clothes, books, decorative items. So yeah, there's lots here, and it'd be good for people going back to school or moving into an apartment.
All sounds very good. Rachel, is this your first summer at St. Vincent de Paul?
Yes, it is my first summer.
Are you surprised with just how busy the food banks are? Are you surprised with the demand?
Yeah, I volunteered here for a while before working here for the first time, and I can definitely say that it's more busy in the summer.
I mean, I don't want to ask you too many questions necessarily. But, we hear stories about more and more children relying on food banks, more and more seniors, more and more families. Can you just describe what you see in a day-to-day operations at the food bank?
Yeah, it's definitely more busy, and like you mentioned, kids relying on it more. I think that's because of since school's out, there's more, the kids are eating more. So yeah, there's lots of kids coming to the food bank, and we have programs for seniors such as the Forget-Me-Nots, and we have other classes here, other programs here such as Mo Angels and Meals on Wheels for seniors who can't get to the food bank by themselves. Yeah, we have lots of programs here to support those kids and those seniors that are coming here more during summer.
I don't mean to be rude, but how old are you, Rachel?
I'm 18.
You're 18. Do you think that some of your, whether it be schoolmates or your friends, really understand just how busy the food banks are, just how big the demand is?
No, I think that you would see it if you actually came here, because if I wasn't at the food bank, I probably wouldn't realize it as much. But being here, you definitely see it more.
No doubt you do. So give us the details one more time about your fundraiser.
This Saturday, July 26th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., right next to the food bank, 4 St. Clair Avenue, and if it rains, it'll be held at 163 Water Street in Carbonear.
Good luck with it. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rachel.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Bye. There you go. It's good to see people working in that avenue. Just a couple of takeaways from it, not necessarily about food banks, is like, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow because people have told me that the numbers I gave out regarding wage subsidies for temporary foreign workers are the kind of programs out there. Some people just think that I wasn't offering accurate information, but it was, and I've verified it 3 or 4 times here now. But in the world of the Canada Summer Jobs Grant, someone asked if there's a breakdown about who gets hired. Well, it's not that it necessarily works like that, because the organization, a not-profit or a charity or a business, they will apply for X amount of grant money to hire X number of people. And at that stage, they do the hiring. So it's not the government doing the hiring here, it's the organizations doing the hiring. So I think that's 2 different things. Now, remember, there was a contentious issue there a number of years ago, is when there was an attestation associated with the Summer Jobs Grant Program, which was complete nonsense. And at that time, it was saying that the organization had to align with the values of the Liberal Party. That's not what it's about, right? It's about hiring people to work. And for instance, one of the pushbacks came in the area of churches. Historically, they would have applied for summer grant money, whether it be to do whatever, to clean up around the property, to paint the fence around the graveyard, and whatever the case may be. But because there was some concerns regarding the government's position on abortion, then some of these entities were ruled out, which was completely and utterly ridiculous. Now, Scott Sims, at the time, was a Liberal member out in Central. He spoke out against it, against what the government was doing. And he paid the price politically. So immediately he was removed from one of the committees he sat on regarding fisheries and oceans, which was pretty important to have someone from this province sitting on that committee. And then eventually got ostracized by the party. He ran again for election. The party didn't support him, and he lost. So the summer jobs program, someone's asked me to give a breakdown about the numbers. I can get the numbers insofar as how much money went out the door from the government and how many jobs that was supposed to support throughout the course of a summer, but it's the hiring is done by someone else. The federal government doesn't do the hiring, and all those particular caveats associated with it, they have rightfully and thankfully gone by the wayside. Because we shouldn't have a teenager who can't get a job painting a fence because it just so happens to be on some church property or not. So that's some of the issues. I can't give you those specific numbers as much as I'd like to. Also, just based on the email, been asked why I don't dare, is the way it's put, why I don't dare mention the sentencing hearing in Ottawa regarding 2 of the Ottawa protest organizers, Tamara Leach and Chris Barber. The fact of the matter is, I did speak to it just yesterday, as a matter of fact. So it is just a sentencing hearing. I don't know when the final determination of the punishment, and it will be punishment of some form, even if it comes in the form of house arrest, because they've already been convicted. And, someone went on to say, imagine there's the consideration for someone to be thrown in jail, and I don't know what the outcome is going to be. The Crown's looking for 7 years for Tamara Leach and 8 years for Chris Barber. They were looking for 10 for Pat King, and of course he only got house arrest. He was indeed incarcerated leading up to that eventual decision by the judge in that case. So we don't know when it's going to come. And, someone says, mischief, how can that be a big deal? Criminal mischief has long been a big deal, well prior to this case, well prior to Pat King. And criminal mischief is not like your child being mischievous. It's not like the child sneaking a second cookie. Right? That's not what criminal mischief means at all. And it's been punishable up to 10 years in prison. So, again, it's not just, misbehaving. That's not what criminal mischief means. And you can chime in as you see fit about the Crown's position on the amount of time that they think that the two should spend in prison. I'm even going to be surprised if there's any prison time. It's probably going to be, I shouldn't be guessing on this stuff because it's complicated matters. So that. The same email, it's remarkable to me, saying, of course you're a hockey fan, so you don't dare talk about the court case regarding 5 members of Team Canada World Juniors 2018. What? Not only did we talk about it when the charges were first filed, but as recently as this morning, talked about it. Because why? They'll learn their fate today. The judge will offer the reasons and rationale for ruling one way or the other. All 5 players are charged with sexual assault. One is also has an additional charge of a party to sexual assault because that person invited the girl who's known as EM to the hotel room unbeknownst to her. So again, there's probably things that you want me to bring up that I don't. And, of course, the best part of the show is when you call to bring up whatever you see fit. But for those 2 examples, in the one email, Tamara Leach, Chris Barber, talked about it yesterday. Today's the last day of the sentencing hearing, and then we'll find out. Didn't talk about the World Juniors, except we did this morning. All right, final checking on the Twitter box. We're VOCM Open Line. You can follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. My favorite, of course, when you join us live on the air, and you'll have that opportunity tomorrow when we pick up this conversation right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.